Welcome to Cage Minds. I'm Mika Frankl. 10 days out from LFA 116. Joining to talk about it is Josiah Reyes. How you doing, sir?
Very, very good. How are you today?
Oh, I'm great. It's good to see you again. It's been a while. I mean, 2 fights in 4 months. A pandemic happens. It's been quite a while.
It has been. I know it's crazy. We were getting momentum like crazy there for a while. I had moved on from my job at CYFD, and then I had 2 fights in that time, like you mentioned, and we were cranking them out and training so hard. That was my first time of like full time training, and I really liked it. It was a nice change from the office grind, the 8 to 5 office grind. So I thoroughly enjoyed like a professional athlete's life of just your job is to train, which is pretty cool. You still have to pay the bills though. So that's something of course that everybody has to figure out. So we've been lucky enough to be training people as their job now, like private training. And one of our coaches, Josh Montoya, has kind of helped us a lot with that, showing us the ropes because he's been doing that for quite some time as well. So that's been nice to pay the bills, and you still learn a lot because your mind's constantly going like, okay, what combos am I going to hold for this person? How am I going to teach them this? I got to break this down for them. And then I'm teaching the kids class as well for jujitsu. So if you can break down a technique for a 4-year-old, you really, really know the technique. You can stay pretty active in terms of like paying the bills anyway. It's like still training. We still managed to stay pretty active training throughout all of that. And then, of course, Jerome she probably fought like 5 times in a year's time, I think. So, we were grinding with him for that whole time. And then I had a couple that I thought I might have. So I started training real hard, and then it didn't happen. So we've definitely been grinding this whole time, like full time too. So, yeah, it's been a long time, but I'm excited to test everything I've learned the last year and a half. I did see you at the grappling event last Saturday too.
Are we going to get you to compete there?
I would love to actually. I was thinking of that up until I got matched up. So if I don't have any type of like MMA match, I definitely am going to test my jujitsu. It's been a little bit. So yeah, I'll be in there for sure.
Now, the last year and a half grinding, you mentioned Jerome Rivera. How valuable is that, having a training partner who was getting ready for UFC caliber competition?
I mean, I always tell everybody, like, I basically got as far as I did for, of course, my coaches and my teammates. But a big part is like I've basically been shadowing Jerome for 3 years, 2 or 3 years now. I've just been like shadowing the guy, like an apprenticeship, if you will. And man, I've just learned he's like an encyclopedia of knowledge. He's got so many drills, so many combos, so much experience, and he's young. He's like so young. At the age he's at right now, I barely had started even training, and so like it's crazy how much knowledge he has. And he's like 26 years old. It's ridiculous, but I mean, he's been great. He's such a huge help, and Jerome, he's like super nice and just eager to help. So I couldn't have asked for anything better, honestly.
Now, over the last year and a half, any moments where you almost didn't know if this was going to happen? It was taking so long to get another fight.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, you know how it is. It's like they always say that kind of cliche thing. It's like it's your lifestyle, and you're like, I've heard a lot of old school retired MMA people who are like, I still train just almost the same as if when I was fighting. And I found that to be true for myself. Like even when things seem like, dang, are we ever gonna fight again? It's like I was still doing jujitsu and still hitting the bag, still hitting pads, still studying. I love to study. I got like an encyclopedia of instructionals that I've been getting. So I still love to study. So I knew eventually I would still test it. I'm still I still have like some years of fight time in my body. I don't have like a ton of miles either from like fighting and injuries and stuff. So I knew eventually I would hopefully be able to get back in there. And I just look at these as kind of like an assessment of everything that I've learned so far, basically. So yeah, I was pretty confident I'd get back in there. And if anything, for sure, jujitsu, of course, as well.
Val, Colorado, LFA 116, Llorrvic Acevedo going to be the opponent. I know he's from Colorado, trains with Factory X. His pro debut came with Combate. Looks like, as far as I can see, every win he has is by submission. How do you feel about this challenge ahead of you?
I mean, yeah, he kind of seems like my, what is that term, like doppelganger, right? He seems like similar to me. He's like got a long body like me, kind of more on the tall side of the flyweight, a grappler, which is kind of like, that's kind of my thing too, is jujitsu. He seems like I think maybe Hispanic, which I'm also Hispanic. Yeah, it seems like very similar. We got similar records as well too. It's very interesting. I don't know like a ton about him, just kind of what I studied here and there. I think it'll be a really good matchup. It's going to be nice to kind of test myself on maybe a grappler who's long like me. Jerome's great for that. He's very similar to that way. We have some other guys like that, so I'm confident. I don't know him too well, but I think I can beat him everywhere. I think I'm better than him everywhere. But well, the sport is so crazy. You just never know. You could get caught with anything from anybody, but I feel like I'm better than him in every spot personally. But I'm curious. That's the whole excitement. I'm like, dang, even when I was just laying down napping, I'm like, I wonder how his grappling is. Because you can feel like how good someone's grappling is, like from the moment you make like contact with them and like you feel their grips, you're like, oh, all right, this I know kind of what his grappling is like. Or once you kind of see their movement and feel their striking movement, you kind of get an idea of how good they are. So it's very exciting to kind of see that. It's like a brand new person. I think that's the thrill of it all. It's a totally brand new person and you're going like 100%. So it's just kind of a crazy thing,
You'd mentioned at the beginning of that breakdown that you said there were some similarities when you're planning out the game plan, talking about the fight with your coaches, with your training partners. Is there ever a question kind of like, so how should I fight myself then? Because it's kind of what I feel like I'm looking at.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, there, of course, there's some things that we identify that are like, okay, let's capitalize on this. Any smart fighter is going to be trying to put your strengths on their weaknesses or take away their strengths and exploit their weaknesses. So of course, we've identified some things that we would like to exploit and take advantage of, and I'm sure vice versa. I'm sure they're like, oh, we can exploit this and that. Yeah, we pretty much right out of the gate made some assessments and decided to kind of make a plan around that, which of course we can't go into too much detail, so you have to wait.
People don't think of it in this kind of manner, but how important also is decision making throughout a fight?
I mean, it's got to be everything. I think I heard Jones say that one time. I think it was John Jones, like the fight IQ in terms of being able to make real decisions in real time and like real assessments and reads in real time, which is crazy because real time is combat. So in order to make actual reads, like, oh, when I do this, they do that. When he throws this, he does this. When I go here, he goes here, and here. So maybe if I go here and here, he'll do that. Let's see. So it's like, I think the highest level of fighters have that IQ to make those real-time adjustments and real-time assessments. It's like, I guess it's like playing speed chess, because regular chess, you have all the time and a lot of time to decide. Speed chess, it's like, you got to go. So it's kind of like that. And I am a chess player, so that kind of helps a lot. But yeah, I think the better you get, the better you're like oh, I need to do this instead of this and this instead of that, and not just blindly kind of, this is the game plan and I'm only going to do this no matter what happens. Like that's not really realistic all the time.
Going into the fight here, you're almost coming in with a much bigger toolbox. You've had a year and a half to work on all these things, and that's so much time. There's probably so many things that you've added. How do you decide what you're bringing in that box that night?
Yeah, I mean, that's a question, man. That's a great question. That's really what it comes down to. It's like I've trained so long the last year and a half and drilled this and drilled that, and it's such a strange thing because you almost have to like say you have like a shed and you walk in there and you have all these tools hanging and laying around and you're like, okay, I have this particular job. Which one of these tools am I gonna load up in my tool bag and take with me to the job? And that's kind of what this is. You have this huge amount of tools and you're like, I can only take so many tools into this to finish this job. Which ones am I going to take? And given what the job looks like, I think I'll take this and that. So I've picked which tools that I feel like I could fit in my tool bag, which is not infinite. And of course, I feel like your coaches have a job of like, when they're seeing things, they're like, ooh, we need this tool to be used to take care of that little issue right there. So I think I've picked the ones that I've been kind of wanting to test out for a while. And my coaches know pretty well, like the tool bag where they can be like, hey, we need to do this and that now. So yeah, that's kind of everything, I feel like. Because the bad thing is if you're like, oh, I want to do this and 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 that, and you go in there and you're like, I forgot everything, you know? So you got to really kind of pick and choose. And it's such a strange thing. It's like video games when you have like, do you remember those action adventure games? Like, I can't think of any examples except I had a Star Wars game for PS1, and you start out and you literally have X, square, triangle, and circle, and those each only do like one attack. And every level that you finish, you get to do like square, square, square does a 3 attack, and then triangle, square, triangle, and you keep adding it and adding it. And that's kind of what I'm thinking fighting is like, where you're like, you got something basic down really, really well, and then you add a little bit to it, and then a little bit to it, and a little bit to it. But at the same time, you can't remember like a dozen combos. It's probably got to be like more like a few. And even like Valentina Shevchenko, I'm a big fan of her and her team. And we even got to train with them a couple years back, like 3 years ago, which was really, really cool. But she just like, she fires like a hard left body kick or a hard left kick, a 3-2 from hell, some jabs, and then some nasty body lock takedowns, and a Superman punch, and a spinning back fist. And that's like, I don't think she like throws almost much. She surely can throw everything in the kitchen sink if she wanted to, but like that's all she does mostly. And she's incredible. It's the best ever, maybe. So I don't know, that I'm still figuring all this stuff out, to be honest. I'm still pretty new to the game.
And then being new, having this excitement. What happens when you get and the coaches suggest, we're going to add this new tool to the bag for this fight for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's happened, of course, like the last few weeks or even month. Trying to think of which tool, that it's interesting that you mentioned that, because there's been a few tools that I've been eyeing for months, if not years, and trying to figure out the best way to sharpen the tool, so to speak. And throughout this past 2 months, all of those, I guess, like locked moves or locked tools have been like unlocked. Like Jerome would be like, hey, I have this drill. It's this, and that. And I'm like, dang, I've been looking for a drill to fine tune that. Or Chris Luttrell's like, I got this drill right here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been looking for a drill to refine that tool or that move. So I've had like 5 things unlocked that I've been really, really looking for a long time. And I guess now it's time to like test them out in real life.
Now, stepping away from the fight, it's been a year and a half, and not just a martial artist, but I know you have a very musical side too. So, how much time have you spent in that area of your life over this downtime?
Mm. Well, right when I left CYFD in 2019 at the end, I wrote, oh my gosh, I think I wrote like probably about 8 full songs just on the guitar, and some on drums as well. I put the drums in on about 4 of them. But yeah, I got about 8 to 10 like full length songs written from like that October all the way till maybe the end of last year. And I was just cranking them out because I had so much, like when you go a certain amount of time without playing and you sit down and play, you just got like all this stuff that just kind of falls into place, which is the best feeling ever. So I got a lot of material, and then I kind of fell off because the next step is recording it, and it's difficult music, so it takes a kind of a long time, and you're a perfectionist, so it takes even longer, which is how it should be. But I got all this material waiting to be recorded, and I have material from the last band that I had, which we had about 8 songs, and if we don't record those, then it's just a tragedy, because you'll be like, oh, remember those songs that we used to have? Oh yeah, they were really cool, huh? Yeah. Well, now we can't hear them or listen to them or show anybody ever again. So it's horrible. I've had bands where that happens. So I got like 8 songs from that past band, and then 8 to 10 from my personal stuff. So I'm behind big time on music, and I'm like, someday, I keep saying this, someday I'm gonna record and hopefully when maybe all this stuff is done, I can get back at it. Or after this bout, maybe I'll get on the recording a little bit now that it's kind of cold outside, and unless I get matched up right away. But yeah, I still like play at my church every Sunday, so that keeps me, playing guitar and learning quite a bit. But I've kind of fallen off the last year pretty much. But I am still teaching people music. I have a couple of clients that I'm teaching music to, so that's pretty awesome as well.
So, I guess I'll hit you with, are we going to see the day when Josiah Reyes asked him backstage, I didn't recognize that song, and it'll be like, oh, that was my song that I walked out to. Are we going to see that?
I've thought about doing that. I have 2 or 3 songs that I have recorded already that I have like on YouTube, and I've thought about doing that, and I forgot about that actually. I haven't done that yet. And then I have a song from one of my youth that I worked with, and he made this hip hop track that's just hilarious and ridiculous. So I tried to come out to that 2 fights ago, and I gave him the wrong song, so that was my bad. But yeah, for sure, within one of these fights, I'll come out to one of my songs for sure. This last one, I didn't know we get to pick for LFA, so I picked this song. I just found out of nowhere. It's like a reggae song. I've been kind of on a reggae fix the last maybe the last year, I guess. And this song just popped up, and it was just like got such a cool beat to it. And it's called The Renegade too, which I know there's a lot of songs that are called Renegade, but this one's also called Renegade. And it's just got like cool groovy beat, and the lyrics are pretty cool for the most part, and it's just kind of happy, fun, groovy song. So I just went ahead and picked it because it's kind of like a homage too, because that last time we fought in LFA, which was about 3 years ago now, that was from Jerome. Kind of, I think he was the one who was like, we should bring Josiah, because they were looking for another matchup. And I think he was the one who kind of suggested that they bring me 3 years ago. And I think I was 1-1 amateur at the time. So yeah, I was 1-1. So anyway, it's just kind of full circle that now we're going back, and like Jerome's been kind of, such an instrumental part in all of this for me. So it's kind of like a cool little little homage to him, throw out this track and walk out to it.
You were there as an amateur, and now you get to go back as a pro. How's that feel?
It's really cool, man. And again, I mean, I know I think I've said this before, but it's like I remember being in Silver watching LFA, and just, you know, I wasn't even training jujitsu yet, and I was just watching like, oh whoa, there's more fights on a channel that's like that I don't have to like worry about trying to buy fights. So I was watching these LFA fights, and then one of my teammates fought on there from Silver, so I was like, holy crap, I get to watch him on TV. And I was probably like early 20s, and then all of a sudden, like, I get to meet, like, you know, everybody from the LFA and then fight for them, and then now I'm like going back to that same spot and doing it as a pro. It's really, really cool, and just thankful for everything, to be honest. I don't know where I'm going to go still, you know, how far I'm going to make it. I would love to. I think my short-term goal for fighting would be to get the LFA title. I think that would be a really, really, really cool accomplishment and like short-term goal for fighting. But yeah, it's beautiful, man.
And I got to ask, we've talked about all the tools, the different ones you have to work with, all the time you've put in. How much different of a martial artist do you feel now?
I mean, I was super green whenever we went up there 3 years ago. It's crazy to just think about it. I took that at 135, so I didn't like hardly cut any weight at all for that fight, I remember. And it was just crazy. I mean, so much has changed, and I think about that for myself. I've grown, I've got more tools, I've got more experience. I'm in better shape than I've ever been in my life from all the strength and conditioning at the Santa Fe Athletic Co. Shout out to David over there, and all the other coaches there as well. And at the same time, this guy, you know, he's got time that he's grown as well. I always think about that. I'm not the only one who had time to level up and grow this last year or two. This dude grew and leveled up at a big gym as well. So, you know, we both have new tools that neither of us know about. So it's just a crazy sport, man.
It is definitely a crazy sport. What are some of those lessons that you learned as looking back at your social media? I'm looking back at your Facebook page, and I just saw a post with a bunch of Adidas pads. It looked like it's from 2017, and you're like, this is the greatest sparring session ever. What are some of those lessons that you can share? I'm sure some of that stuff is personal, but some lessons that you learned in this journey.
I mean, well, that night was beautiful, and it's so crazy that I keep getting all these memories. Like, fall is just a nostalgic time, no matter what year it is. But that particular night, I saw two people like shake hands, and like, and they're like pretty prestigious in the community, and they talk things out. And I was lucky enough to just be sitting there, and it was emotional. And they're like, you know, going back and forth about how they felt about each other, and then just squashed it and shook hands and talked about their families. And it was just, I've never seen so much humility in like on the jiu-jitsu mat before, where like big, strong warriors, you know, will humble themselves and talk and let themselves be vulnerable and cry even in front of us. And like, that's just the coolest thing. And I've been there, of course, as well. But in terms of things learned, I mean, I don't know, you know, you could go the physical route or the mental route, or spiritual. Even physically, I've learned the recovery is just as important as the training. And then I'd say this mental part of it is probably about half of it as well, like doing mental reps and just thinking about like what you did and drilling it and visualizing. I found some podcasts that are on neurology, on physical performance. So I've been learning a lot about studies and research on physical performance based off of neurology. I mean, there's so many things I've learned, to be honest. Like everybody always says, you got to enjoy the journey, you got to enjoy the journey, you got to enjoy the journey. And it's like, sounds silly, but life is only as, I guess, as like it meaningful as like the day that you're in or the moment that you're in. And it's so easy to be like, I got to get through this. Oh, I have another training, I got to get through it. Like, oh, I hate this, like I just don't want to. And it's like, I've learned that you really just kind of like, we're going to be like 50 someday, or maybe we won't even be here tomorrow. And it's like, man, why would I just dread this? Yeah, maybe I hurt so bad and whatever, but it's so cool to just look back and, or just be in the moment and be like, dang, I'm hanging out with you know, the Renegade or the Destroyer or Sanai Warrior or any of our coaches, and we're barefoot on the mats, like it's so cool to just be barefoot. And I'm really, really trying my best to enjoy each training and each jujitsu and each warm up. And like, oh, we got to do the warm up again. Oh my God. But it's like, no, do the warm up. Like your body's like such a crazy special vehicle. Like it's so incredible that you're healthy enough to even do a push up. Like I've had injuries where you can't do a push up or you can't move hardly. So when you are healthy, it's like, man, I guess enjoy just moving. I'm getting to the point where I'm just enjoying being on the mats and moving, taking it, I guess, day by day, moment by moment. Even this whole thing, it's stressful and it's nerve wracking, but there's nothing like it, and you'll look back and be like, dang, I remember this fight camp was like this, and we did this and had these laughs and these cries and this happened and that happened. And, watching people like Jerome, he's overcame so many obstacles in the past, and like, he's got like the best attitude I could ever imagine, really. And so I've learned a lot about just having the right attitude in a win or a loss or an injury or anything. Like the attitude and the mindset is really where it's at. Oh crap, I got a timer. So man, I don't know. There's too many things probably to list. Maybe I should make a list. That'd probably be a good idea.
Josiah, I can't wait to see you in action. LFA 116. Again, thank you for the time.